Hello, crystalline friends. It's the 1st of March, so I'm tuning in with you all to look at the energetics of this month ahead from a crystalline perspective. And of course, there are so many different ways we can read a collective field. There's a lot of astrology out there, of course, and a lot of people talking about the year of the fire horse. And even the fact that we're in this in between solar and lunar eclipse phase that's culminating on the 3rd of March. So it is a highly charged and potent time, and I'm sure you're all feeling it in your own unique ways. And it's also a really good reminder to reach out to friends and check in and have a chat, because sometimes when we're feeling all the feels and things are coming up, we can really feel like it's our own stuff. And yes, it is to some degree, of course, but sometimes when you're speaking to someone else and they're also feeling something big too, we can get the feeling of, maybe it's not just me, it's a collective energy that's moving through us. So yeah, I definitely, in hindsight, have tuned in with a few friends today and really felt that the last week was feeling a bit wobbly. So I'm not sure if any of you can relate to that, but now I'm looking at where we are in the cycle, and that makes a lot of sense. Not to mention, on top of that, this it's almost like a destabling energy when we finish one cycle and move into the next with the Chinese New Year, of course, but also these eclipse gateways, these in-between phases. There's a lot of movement, and I'm not fully into astrology as far as I don't know all what's going on, but I do know that there's a lot of Piscean energy, which is very fluid, watery, bringing things, things that are potentially have been immobilized or stuck, starting to move again. It's the movement of emotions and bringing things to the surface, the circling back to revisit things, to really feel what they mean to you now, and are they things that we're going to be bringing forward into this next chapter, this next pathway. And it's interesting to look at the crystalline cycle, because that's more about my understanding, is how we're manifesting the next the next pathways of our desires, what we're creating in the world. And this really beautifully coincides with a workshop I'm running on the 7th of March, this next weekend, which is tapping into all the creative fires and how we bring movement to the areas that can feel stagnant, that can feel stuck, that can feel a bit lackluster, and how to really cultivate that primal life force energy that's inside of all of us and wants a pathway of movement. So the manifestation process, the creation process, the bringing the ideas into the physical can happen, smoothly. Well, is there such thing as smoothly in this world? We can certainly catch a wave for a while and be gliding through the process, but there's always going to be times when we need to paddle a little harder. So, to get back on the waves. So I'm wanting to, just really give that sort of overall reflective too. There's a lot of changing and a lot of moving happening on the bigger level. But today we are in the crystalline frequency of pyrite. So pyrite is a beautiful golden mineral that is often called fool's gold because it looks like gold. It's shiny, it's bright, but it's not gold. It's an iron form. And the thing that's really special about iron pyrite, is that when you often will see it or find it, in conglomerations of other minerals and rocks. So for example, I've just been in Tasmania. There's a lot of big granite boulders there, and you'll see little bits of all these conglomerations of different minerals together. But when you throw the rocks together against another rock, so you bang them together, they create sparks. And the sparks is that thing that's quite unique to pyrite. It's really like the ignition or the spark of life that sort of brings the first light or brings the energy to something. So if we think about creating fire, there's, you can rub some sticks together, or you can use one of those iron little, I don't know what you call them, but you bang the rocks together to create a spark, and you put that spark into your kindling to create fire. So, you know, even just drawing back to like the practical uses of these stones for people, you know, our ancestors many, many moons ago, they used these stones to create fire, which is ultimately to create life. You know, once we started cooking with fire or warming ourselves with fire, we progressed massively in leaps and bounds as a humanity. You know, like that jump just from a spark was huge for human evolution. So I really like to sort of draw that understanding when we're working with the energy of pyrite. This is where we can bring a spark back into our lives to create that fire or that flame to be burning again. And especially at times when things have felt a lot, or we've felt a bit off center or a bit unsure, it's like, what am I even creating? You know, the start of the year, the start of any year, you know, for us in the Gregorian calendar, it's like, you know, New Year's, January time, you sort of think, oh, I've got to work out what I'm doing for the year ahead. But to be honest, like, that's a busy time, and often we don't really think about those things until now. Like this February month, this February, March is really where we get the ignition, where we get the like, what's actually really important? What do I want to create this year? What am I aligning to? What creative pathways want to be birthed forward? And that's why it so beautifully ties in with that year of the fire horse, and the Chinese calendar which is definitely more attuned with the natural cycles. And then, you know, from that point, it's like we go from the review, from the feeling into things, from the you know, what are my options, to where is the fire, where is the spark, where is the inspiration that wants to move through. So when we're moving through the crystalline cycle, we're constantly in this process of moving from higher frequency into form. We're moving from consciousness, from spirit. We're metabolizing that through all the levels of our being, from the masculine, the feminine, the soul level, through our emotional bodies, our mental bodies. And we're also processing that through all the layers of our being. So we're really at the spark stage at the moment. We're at okay, things might feel a little uncertain, unclear, yet this is a time when the spark initiates new projects, new inspirations, new ways of being in the world that we want to carry through. So I love that today's Sunday. I love Sundays. I love just not having anything on my plate and giving myself the space for my creative endeavors, for the projects that want to move through me, that aren't necessarily to do with work, aren't necessarily to do with duty. You know, it's like, what actually is moving below the surface, and where do I feel that spark? So this is also one of the crystals I'm going to be working with in the Crystal Masterclass in an upcoming day retreat. So I'll post some information about that soon. There's going to be a beautiful collection of people offering all kinds of insights and movement and yoga nidra and yeah, a beautiful offering at Heartwood Farms. So keep an eye out for that. We're going to be starting off the day with looking at specific crystals that really help that momentum, help us not only gather that creative spark back again, but also anchor it into our reality. So pyrite is certainly one of my favorites for that reason. And then throughout the rest of this week, we're moving through the higher spheres. Like last week, we were in this real transition zone. So no wonder things felt a little wobbly, especially sort of Wednesday, maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, like last week, was a interdimensional shift frequency as far as the crystals are concerned. But we're starting at the top and we're rolling out from here on in. So this is a really beautiful time to be aligning with spirit, aligning with what's your higher calling, and then working with those energies. So we're going to be moving through the 7 crystalline frequencies that are in this space in the coming week. And on the lunar eclipse day, we're going to be working in the energy of clear quartz. And if we think about clear quartz, it's a whole bandwidth. So really, it's kind of like choose your adventure on the whole spectrum of light and color. Clear quartz has it all. So this is really a master crystal frequency. It's definitely one that will highlight areas in your life. So for better or worse, you know, like a lot of the time people can find eclipses quite intense, quite powerful, but it doesn't need to be negative or positive. It's just highlighting what it is you need to see and to work with, and to maybe course correct if necessary. So that's going to be towards the end of, or through this week. And then of course we're moving our way down the tree. So this whole month we're really going to be working with the masculine feminine polarities and moving through all the crystalline frequencies of, once we receive that insight and that vision, how do we balance it between the sides of ourselves? And you know, everything that we do, everything that we birth, everything that we create, we want to do so in balance, because anything that is unbalanced ends up having the shadow aspect being unbalanced. So, you know, ultimately, everything that we create in the world will always have a shadow. And it's not a bad thing, it's just the nature of the reality we live in. So, you know, you might manifest your perfect house to live in. That's incredible. But with any asset, you have also created a whole lot of maintenance for yourself, which is time, which is energy. And sometimes you've got, you know, enthusiasm for that, and other times it will feel like a burden. Or you might create the most amazing business. And likewise, once you create anything, there's a whole lot that goes with sustaining that life force. You have a child, it's the dream, wow. But then you've got this little being, this little person that needs 24/7 attention, care, and for you to be able to stay centered while they're having a full-on crying fit meltdown, as well as all the happy and joyful moments. So I think that's a really good thing to remember in the creation process. No matter what we create is going to give us both sides of the coin. So the more we can be balanced in our creation, the less severe that shadow side of our creations can be. So I hope that gives you some insight, gives you some reassurance in just the wobbles that you might have been feeling the last day or two or last week, and just knowing that to tread gently, be centered. This is a really beautiful time for a lot of inner practice, meditation, anything that you can help you connect to really tune in and listen to spirit. This is the time for it, specifically in this week, this portal week of the eclipse energy. So maybe less out there and more in here. And then from what have we got, the week following, you know, that's when we start to bring the balancing energies. This is when we start to bring our masculine focus, direction, working out what we need, and balancing it with that emotional flow of the feminine, and how these two energetics really support the vision that you're wanting to bring through. Okay, lots of love to you all out there, and we'll see you next month.